and they have that conversation in the car, and then that's where Sean Penn is like very frantic, talking about these people are out of their mind. Like you pay them, and then I try to pay them more money to get them to stop, but they just won't. They completely just fuck with your life. He's like, hey, I don't think he's the one that says it's a con. It's Christine that says, the whole thing is a con. But, like, Penn is great in that scene where they're in the car. He's, like, tearing up the car. He's looking for wires. He's looking for, he finds all the keys, the CRS keys in the glove box.
Yeah, so then he starts thinking that Nick is in on it with, against him, and basically he throws the keys at him, and he's like, you're in on this too, and how could you? And then Nick is just trying to like change the flat tire, and then Conrad kind of bolts on him, and they have this like brutal heart to heart, I guess.
Yeah, like this real like emotional an argument. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. They have like a pretty emotional argument out on the street, and that's where you can tell like the mutual resentment that they have for each other that we spoke about slightly earlier. And they're just they have it out. Nick tries to convince him that he's not in on it. That he tries to chase after him, and Conrad just bails. And then there's that scene where the phone rings, and he picks up the phone. All the payphones are ringing, and he picks it up, and it's literally the recording of the conversation he just had with Conrad out on the street. And then the end of that is he calls a cab, gets in the cab, and the driver just takes him on this wild ride. And eventually jumps out of the car and leaves Nick in the car. The cab just like sails right into the bay. And then, Nick's the car's underwater, and Nick doesn't know what to do. And then from a package or an envelope that he got earlier in the day, it's the crank to the window in order for him to escape.
He keeps saying, he says to himself, like, it's a game, there's got to be a way out.
I think at that point, no way. Like, man, that's craziness. Yeah, it's he keeps repeating, like, oh, it's just a game, it's just a game. Even though at that point, there's definitely life-threatening shit going on.
Also, by the way, before I forget, Michael Douglas is 77 right now.
77 now, so when he makes the game, which is, 24 years ago? So he's in his early 50s. He's, 53-ish?
Yep.
If he's 77 now? So he's not too far off from that age. He's only about 5 years off of that age. And like I said, I think Michael Douglas, because he's been around for a long time, and he was kind of grayish early. I think it kind of makes him look older, or makes him seem like he's older.
He's one of those guys who's looked the same like his whole career.
Yeah, he beyond like his early career, when he had like darker hair, a little bit longer.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
he's basically looked exactly the same.
A movie we left out, I don't know if maybe because you don't like it, but he's, in my opinion, he was pretty good in A Perfect Murder.
That's a movie I haven't watched in a long time. That's
Gwyneth Paltrow and Viggo.
Yeah, it's a remake of a Hitchcock movie, though. Is it Strangers on the Train?
Really?
Dial M for Murder, that's what it is. It's a modern remake of Dial M for Murder. I was trying to recall which one it was. Throw Mama from the Train is a remake of Strangers on the Train. A comedic remake.
Is that with Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal, I believe.
Yeah.
But, okay, A Perfect Murder, which I remember watching. I don't think I've seen it in a long time, though. I might have only seen it once or twice.
That's another one where he's just like this total asshole again.
Ghost in the Darkness is one that we talked about just before getting on air that I think he's very good in, which is another very good movie. That might have been the one that he made just prior to this. Romancing the Stone, which is a great movie that I love. An action comedy from Robert Zemeckis is, I think, the movie that he made just prior to Back to the Future. But Michael Douglas is fantastic in that with Kathleen Turner. So he's got like a solid run. You mentioned Traffic before.
Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct, he's really good in that. I don't think he's quite as good in Basic Instinct as he is in Fatal Attraction, but he is good in it.
Is he in War of the Roses as well, or am I?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. Okay.
Yes, it reunites him and Kathleen Turner and Danny DeVito, who all are in Romancing the Stone, and I think Jewel of the Nile, which is the sequel to Romancing the Stone, which I believe Douglas directs. And I know that reunites him and Kathleen Turner, and I can't remember if Danny DeVito's in it, but I'm pretty sure he is. And then, yes, War of the Roses, which is, I think, DeVito's movie. So, yeah, those are all fucking great Michael Douglas roles. Because he's a solid actor.
I wanted to give a shout out to his dad.
Oh yeah, man, Kirk.
Who had a similar relationship, or I feel like, with Kubrick, right?
Kubrick directs Kirk Douglas in Spartacus, which is a pretty good movie. I mean, it's a really good movie, but it's another Kubrick movie that kind of doesn't really have his personal stamp on it. But Pass of Glory, which is a movie I highly recommend from Stanley Kubrick, which might have been the movie that he made just prior to Spartacus with Kirk Douglas. It's a fantastic World War I movie that's a very anti-war movie that I would highly recommend. So we talked about the scene where he's at Christine's apartment.
Yes.
And then you realize that something is very off about this apartment. And then as he's searching, he realizes that. And then there's the shootout where for lack of a better term, the hit squad comes. They all got masks on. You know, they're all carrying automatic weapons. They turn the place into Swiss cheese. And then he takes off with Christine. They go to a cabin, and then as they're talking, she gives him some tea or some coffee, and he drinks it, and you realize, because the scene turns there, that she's in on it as well. You know, she just drugs him. But there's that whole thing where his finances are gone. He calls and checks on his finances. And then it's, how did they figure out all that information? Well, they had you do all the psychological tests and, asking you the weird questions like, what would you rather be? That stuff that you figure out they figured out the passwords from all the tests that he took, basically giving you a window into his personality.
Yeah, so then they were able to kind of troubleshoot and guess his passwords based on the information taken from his what is it called? The examinations that they did on him.
Yep. Yep. And then when he's at the cabin, he calls the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, what are you talking about? Your finances are there, and every single penny is accounted for. And then Christine's the one that says, hang up the phone, he's in on it. And even as he's talking to the lawyer, the last thing the guy says before Nick hangs up on him is, tell me exactly where you are. So you do get that feeling that, no, his lawyer's in on it too. Like, this is some huge conspiracy. And then, Christine drugs Nick and takes off. And you realize, well, she's definitely a part of the conspiracy as well. And then there's the scene where he wakes up like in a Mexican cemetery. He's in a coffin in a Mexican cemetery. And he has to figure out, how to get back across the border. He has to figure out how to get home. He has no ID, no money.
They change his clothes.
Yeah.
No passport, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. He manages to get across the border, I think, with help of the consulate. And then he's very much down on his luck. I don't know where exactly, but it's like a truck stop, and he goes into the restaurant and says, hey, I need a ride to San Francisco. I have $18. Can someone please give me a ride? And he gets the ride. He heads back to San Francisco. He, contacts his wife, his ex-wife, who he was very much had that very estranged relationship with. Talks to her, asks to borrow her car, and then something clicks with him, and you realize that the commercial that's on the TV in the diner, the actor that's in it is that Jim Feingold guy, the guy that gave him the test at CRS in the beginning. And you realize that this, more layers of the onion get peeled away.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that this, while it's a game, their office is kind of temporary. They're never on the same floor. They hired the actors to pose as, the executives at this company. It just, that whole conspiracy kind of, you see it little by little get unraveled. And then
we missed when he goes back home and he grabs like a specific book. I think it's To Kill a Mockingbird, and it has
To Kill a Mockingbird, yeah.
Yeah, it has the weapon that supposedly they never found in his house, correct?
Yes. And there's that scene where he's out on the street and some guy tries to carjack him with like the Slim Jim.
Yeah, yes.
And he reaches inside the book and he pulls out the gun and says, what does he say? Like, I'm not a stable person or something like that. Basically, you like, don't fuck with me.
And the guy the guy just like looks at the weapon and like walks away.
Yeah. Yeah, he runs off.
He says something like, I'm not having a very good time right now.
Yeah.
Or something with the weapon pointed at.
And he finds Feingold at the zoo with his kids. And he's like really menacing at the zoo. He's like, he sees the guy with his kids, and the guy's like, oh, please, I'm here with them. And he just shows him the gun and says, get rid of them. You're gonna take me inside. And then once inside, he grabs the guard's gun, he tosses the gun. He gets inside, and he goes up, and they're in like the cafeteria. And there's that great scene where you see literally every single person that he has encountered throughout this movie. Every single person is in the lunchroom in the cafeteria. Just every bit character is there. the guy that played the private